everybody got to follow their passion and play the role and, follow whatever God designed you to do. Most of us know it in our gut, but sometimes we're too scared to admit it or too scared to go for it. Then we get ourselves stuck in the wrong job, the wrong profession. We do a lousy job. We get unhappy. We get depressed because we don't have the courage to say, hey, I want to be an actor. Hey, I want to be the, finance and make tons of money. Hey, I want to run a charity, whatever it is.
Heck, man, I walked away from a successful medical sales career to do this. It's scary, right? And I could remember the look on my wife's face. She goes, you're going to do what? Best buddies, right? You started this and, started from one chapter at Georgetown and it spread into 3,000 chapters internationally, 46 countries and impacting right around 1.3 million people. What was your vision like when you started this and how has it evolved over time?
Well, honestly, when I first started, I really had no vision. I really did it because I followed my heart and I loved being around people who have intellectual and developmental disabilities. I had an amazing relationship with my aunt, Rosemary Kennedy. I just knew they had, unlimited potential and could realize their full potential when they're given the right support, encouragement, and energy. And I think, that's sort of the story of everybody's life. And I think, everybody needs a little bit of a helping hand. I've had a bunch of helping hands, and I think nobody gets to the top of the mountain on their own. And people with intellectual disabilities need sort of a little bit of a different journey, a little bit of a different strategy to get to the top. But I think whatever their dreams are, they can really be realized. And I just wanted to kind of go for it, sort of capture the spirit of young people in college, thought that they could be great friends, mentors, motivators, and at the same time, motivate college kids to be aware this population exists and they can have real impact. And it makes you feel like $1 million to be involved in a life of purpose and service. And, every day you wake up and, your energy's fired up and everything's possible. And so I didn't have a strategic plan in those days. I just was always, entrepreneurial when I was a kid, always sort of hustling deals and trying to make some money in the summers and during the year and little odd jobs, and sort of brought that energy and excitement to this population and have continued to kind of grow on that. This year, we're getting close to $100 million a year in our budget, and we'll almost have 500 people working for Best Buddies in the U.S. and a couple hundred outside the U.S. So, it's gotten, reasonably large and, impacting, hundreds of thousands of people on an annual basis. So it's been fun, but, it's a grind. You got to keep hitting it and you got to keep going and waking up early and getting after it every single day. I mean, it's the only way. And, I think it's just the story of life. There's no easy way.
No, I love that perspective, right? And just something a little bit about me that you don't know, but I want to share it with you. Before I got into this and everything like that, so many, many years ago, I was a teacher and I worked with, kids in those types of situations, intellectual and, developmental disabilities. So I was in an autism unit. There was, kids from, very low levels all the way to very high levels of autism and physical disabled, everything. So, when you talk about that purpose and being fired up every day to make that impact, I can really relate to it because, a lot of my professional career, 10 years was working with kids in high school that had those, developmental disabilities. And it was always very inspiring because you would see different views and perspectives from these kids. And they were also very special and extremely smart and given the opportunity to thrive in an environment. Once they trust you, it's beautiful, man. I just want to share that with you. So I get it.
No, good for you. Lucky you to have that experience. So you've got it, man. You already drank the Kool-Aid. So you're on the team. You know what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
So lucky you, lucky me.
Yeah. Just seeing somebody that, like yourself that has built this nonprofit so large to impact, that demographic, I just, to me is commendable because they need it. Right. And I think that also too, it fulfills us in a certain way that we get to give back to them and learn more about them and be there through their development.
Yeah. Yeah. And you say they need it. I mean, in the end of the day, honestly, we need it. And, we really need it. I think people need it. And I think part of the issues go on so often in our culture today is that, people aren't in the spirit of thinking about other people first. They're always thinking about themselves. They're so self-absorbed and caught up in their own world, worrying about everything that's going on in their life. They don't, if you spend more time focusing on other people, focusing on enhancing other people's lives, making stuff happen for others, you get out of your own head, you get out of your own world, I think. And I think it's a great lesson, great value for young kids to get into the mindset. When you give, you get. When you're focusing on a purposeful life, a life that, you get so much back when you help and support a person with special needs. They're so grateful, their gratitude, their energy, their positivity. They're they're just so happy, that if you're around that, you can't sit around all day long worrying about the news. You can't sit around all day long worrying about what Trump's going to do, what's going to happen in Iran,
Mm.
because, you're so caught up in just taking care of what's in front of you, taking care of how you can impact today, and what you can do. And I think, it just makes you way happier and way more fired up, and, have so much gratitude. And I lead with it every day. And there's so many people that are so overwhelmed with everything that's going on in the world. And it's not that I'm oblivious to it. I just don't focus on it. And I don't, I kind of got the blinders. It's funny. I'm here in New York with my son, and I always gave him this analogy when we were kids. And when he was a kid, about the horses in Central Park, and they walk around with those blinders. And why do they do it? Because in the traffic, they don't want to get spooked from the cars. I mean, it's sort of the story of all of our lives, right? We're walking through life, and stuff's coming at us constantly, whether it's the e-bike in the bike lane, whether it's the guy on those three wheelers with the music, whether it's a taxi cab, an Uber. So much stuff is whipping by these horses. And the only way they're successful is they got those blinders on, and they're just looking straight ahead. And they're not caught up in whatever the missiles are that are coming at him. And I always used to tell him that it's so great now. He gets here and he's always pointing to the blinders. I remember, Daddy, you told me about the blinders. The blinders. I got to stay focused on my goals. Got to focus on my tennis. I got to stay focused on my grades. I can't worry about what my friends are doing. I can't worry about they're sitting around in the pool all day long. All the things that seem like they're the easy way, but they're not, right? Because
Mhm.
everything's hard. You just got to sort of, I say to them all the time, you got to pick your hard. And if you pick a good hard thing and you love it, it's not hard. But you're still at it for hours and hours, and it still takes a lot of your time, and you're at it on the weekends. But you love it because your heart's in it and you're passionate about it, which is sort of the story for me and Best Buddies. So I'm at it all the time, but I don't really see it as a job. I see it as something that I'm passionate about and completely energizes me. And I just keep my blinders on, don't worry about what everybody else is doing, and just keep hammering, right? So the horse thing, I think, is great. I'm so happy my son sees it and able to share that kind of analogy with him.
So I want to touch on that really quickly, but then I want to rewind a little bit and tell you about an experience I had with kids with special needs that we did on the baseball field, which is a really cool story, and I think you'll really enjoy. But I just had a conversation with my daughter today. She's 8. All right.
Lucky you.
And oh yeah. So she didn't do a specific task that she was supposed to do for her summer reading. She goes to a prep school, and it's required summer work. And she goes, I just didn't want to do it. And I explained to her, it's like, it is like, hey, I knew you were going to get mad. I knew your mom were going to get mad. I just didn't care. I didn't want to do it. I'm like, so I'm
Wow.
trying to like listen to her perspective. And then I said to this, I was like, listen, you could have a very, very hard life, or you could have an easy life. And it's counterintuitive, sweetheart. You could sit there and say, well, if I go easy now, things are going to be easy. But the result is going to be, if you choose easy continuously and consistently, you're going to have a very hard life. And so it's important to focus on what you need to do. And I said this to her, put your blinders on, do the things that are necessary so you can have an easy life. And it's great that, we're sitting here, never met each other in person, but we're having the same conversations with our children, because
Yeah,
at the end
yeah.
of the day, that's the silver bullet.
Yeah. I mean,
You
listen,
know?
the theme, as I also say to my kid, these themes are the same themes. I mean, you read the philosophers from 2,000, 3,000 years ago, Marcus
Mm.
Aurelius and those guys, they all say the exact same things we're saying right now, right? All the
Yep.
issues are the same. I mean, we're all human beings. So it's, nothing here is particularly, I wish I was saying something particularly novel, but I really am not. And,
Yeah.
human beings have the same challenges, same issues, same emotional challenges, relationships, whatever it is. They've just been going on forever. And, you can either pick, I think, the right way, as you say, or you pick the wrong way. And, we all end up in the right spot based on, decision after decision. And doesn't mean that we don't all make mistakes. We all sin. But, if you keep making the same ones, you don't end up in the best situation, right?
Fantastic, man. When you said the missiles coming at us daily, it's true, man. They're
Yeah.
coming, right? Proverbially, right? God bless us. But there's still distractions. They can still shake us up. So it's just important, and it's great to teach the kids the lessons because as they grow into adults, they're able to make some sort of impact like you're making, like that I'm making, and the people before them by focusing on others. And in that theme, when I was coaching at Northport High School, we did a little partnership once a year with Challenger Baseball. One of my best friend's fathers, God rest his soul, created this organization called Challenger Baseball. And kids with all types of special needs, intellectual, or even physical disabilities would come to the baseball field and we play a game against them. And we would have, they would have their infield and outfield set, but each one of their players, each one of the challenger players had one of our kids that we coached right next to them, building relationship with them, playing the game with them. And of course, at the end of the day, challenger always won. And the joy that they had, Anthony, it was so impactful because, it was a great way to instill into the younger generation that life is much more than you. Life is much more than what you're doing. There's a whole nother perspective and a whole bunch of other people out there that have different levels of challenges as you. But the thing is that we're all in this together. And it was just an amazing thing.
That's awesome. Sounds like a great program. Is that nationwide or that's just in Florida or?
I can look for you. I know it. I know it was ran out of Venice, Florida.
Okay.
I think it's still going, but that
Cool.
that
Good
could be
for them.
something cool.
Good
Yeah,
for
yeah.
them.
I could
Yeah,
get you
yeah. Awesome.
information on that.
Yeah, no, it's awesome
Yeah,
you do.
yeah. It's pretty neat. So as you guys grow, right? I mean, you're looking, like I said, 3,000 chapters, 46 countries. What are some of the key, I guess, strategies, partnership wise, for you guys to continue this scale of growth? And where do you see this going in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, 10-year plan is 500 million
Yes.
is the goal. So we're trying to grow it bigger. We're trying to get to 100 countries in the next 10 years. So we're in the 40s now, but the growth curve international is pretty challenging, but we've got a pretty good plan in place. And we kind of, I set the goals long term and I said, shorter ones, 1 year, 3 years, five, and kind of go in it backwards. So sort of trying to figure out where are we going to be in 10 years? What do we have to do between now and then in order to grow the budget the right way, grow the programming the right way, expand, our pillars, different divisions within each pillar so that, everybody's sort of clear what the strategy is. And of course, I have my plan and God's got his plan, right? So
Yes,
it's
sir.
never exactly the way we lay it out. Obviously, I see that almost daily, right? So again, trying to be flexible and understand that that's the way it goes, and you got to get in a situation where you can manage through all that. So I think we've got that. I think again, trying to create events, trying to create corporate partnerships that are long term. We try to create 5-year partnerships with a whole slew of companies so that we have some continuity in our revenue. We are trying to develop a thing. We have a thing called Best Buddies Ventures where we partner with for-profit businesses and we co-brand our program with them, and we create positive cash flow there. Actually, a for-profit business that we partner in. So we're in an ice cream store. We've got a bakery. We're doing a partnership with Jersey Mike's. So people are coming in. Yeah, they may know about Best Buddies, maybe they don't, and we have some signage in there. But they're coming into a Jersey Mike's to buy a sub and get a Coke and some potato chips, or they're going to our bakery to get, coffee or croissants or pizza, or to our ice cream store to get ice cream. Yeah, they might see Best Buddies, or we have buddies working in there, but it's not in their face, and it's not necessarily the only reason that they go there. So, trying to build that part of the business out more so that we have revenue coming in that's not contingent upon people making donations or foundations. continuing to try to, expand, the blue chip companies that we've got involved. I mean, we've got Coca-Cola in a 5-year deal. We've got Rolex, we've got Jersey Mike's, we've got Sephora, we've got Wells Fargo. Um, we've got Citadel Securities. We've got, some of the biggest brands in the world, some of the most famous brands in the world that we're partners with. So we got to keep renewing those, delivering excellence back to them so that they feel like they're getting real value, that they're driving business for themselves and they're making money because they partner with us. So that's really important to continue to grow that. The cause related marketing is super important. We do a days of giving with Jersey Mike's, for example, and over 2 days we did $5 million. So those kind of deals are super valuable. We got to do more of those. So we're working with other partners like that. We got to grow the foundation space. That's a big space. The government space is a big space that we could raise more money and do more. Trying to get an authorization at the federal level as well is a big part of our future, where we can get some more security and create some ongoing revenue with the government, so that we have our pie. I mean, my real goal is always in these things is to try to have as many pieces as possible in the pie, right? So we've got a little bit of a piece of the pie is the for-profit, piece of its foundations, piece of its companies, piece of its individual givers, piece of it's the special events where people come because they want to ride in our cycling events, or they want to come to a big party and be entertained by 50 Cent or Jason Derulo or the Black Eyed Peas. So you've got to have a product that's attractive, and it can't just be, hey, give me $1,000, or hey, give me $100,000. Not that those days ever existed, but to me, those days are gone. You just can't have that mentality. I think it's got to be, and everything we do, a two-way street. People have got to get real value and return for what they're doing. So we try to focus in on that. And, a lot of opportunity, to generate revenue outside the United States as well, which creates more diversity for our revenue stream, so that we don't have all of our, everybody talks about investments. When you invest, you have a diversified portfolio. When
Mm-hmm.
I'm building Best Buddies, I want a diversified revenue stream. And something may be hot today, but it could go to zero next
Yeah.
year. I may have some great deal with Jersey Mike's, and then boom, I lose that deal. I can't have all my eggs in one basket, or I can't have all my eggs with, the state of California or the state of Texas or at the federal level. I mean, Trump wiped out USAID. I mean, if I was getting all my money from USAID, I'd be zero. So I think,
Mm.
again, trying to be smart and trying to build a diversified stream of revenue is really the key to these things. Set goals that are measurable, have staff accountable to execute on what we set out for them to do, and in the hopes that they get it done and they have good training and good support and good supervision. But if they can't do the job, we got to switch them out and get the right people in place. So I think it's it's a constant evaluation of where we are and what we need to do, and to stay ahead of the curve and to see what new things are happening, so that we don't get caught, trying to play catch up. We got to, like the AI thing is going to change the way we operate as well. We got to be out in front of the curve on the AI. We can't be playing catch up in 2 years. We got to be all over it right now, so that we don't get left at the train station when the train's leaving. So, constantly trying to, be on the road, traveling, listening to smart people, hearing what they say, thinking, reading, and trying to stay in the loop, so that, the organization continues to stay vibrant, young, and energetic and responsive to our constituents, and providing really programs and services that are needed by our buddies and their families, which is, in the end of the day, is what the whole game's about. We're about serving people with special needs, and trying to support them in their life's journey.
I love it, Anthony. And you mentioned, and you stayed on it for a little bit of time, but I want to go back to Best Buddies ventures, right? I mean, that right there to me is, like you said, it needs to be a two-way street. Whether it's revenue, but also value, right? And what I'm interested to hear some of the things that you guys have observed in people at Jersey Mike's or in these restaurants or ice cream shops that have worked with some of the buddies, how their perspective has grown in working with these individuals. Because, man, I think that is, that makes for a happier work environment,
Yeah.
different perspective and gratitude. And, I'm interested for you to share with the audience some of the things that you guys observed in those situations.
Yeah, well, no, it's huge. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, the Best Buddies Ventures deals, they got to make money, right?
Hmm.
Because, we're
Yep.
putting up equity, we're a co-investor, so our money's on the line. So they got to be profitable. So we've got to run a business first and foremost that's profitable and, is tight and organized and, delivering excellence to the customer that comes in the door. But I think you get a lot of loyalty from the customer that comes in the door where they see that, 50% of the profits going to the organization to support the population of people that they're actually being served coffee by,
Mm.
or actually is cleaning their tables or cleaning the floors or greeting them, so that they see that and they feel better. If you can go into one of our coffee shops as opposed to Starbucks and half the profit goes to Best Buddies and we're giving jobs to people with intellectual disabilities and the products are the same. We got to have comparable products or better products. So our coffee's got to be better. Our croissants have to be better. Our donuts have to be better. Our pizza needs to be better or at least as good. I think people will always pick us over the competition. So I think that's number one. Number two, when we have the buddies working there, it changes the whole energy of the company, right? All the other employees are
Mhm.
happy. They know Johnny or Jill and they're excited and they love him because they always come to work generally with an upbeat attitude and enormous gratitude. They're not showing up negative and complaining and whining and this is wrong and that's wrong. And I missed the bus and I didn't get my transportation or, whatever. I mean, that just generally you don't hear a lot of that. I mean, listen, they're not perfect, so they do complain, but generally speaking, they're pretty upbeat, pretty positive, pretty excited about the opportunities that we're able to create through the ventures program, or even the jobs that we're able to find them that they want to participate in. So they bring that spirit. So everybody else, the tide rises with the whole team, right? When you have buddies there, and I think everybody else works harder. Everybody else feels what they're doing is important, and that there's a reason for them to be doing what they're doing in the company that they work with. They understand the value system of the company. I mean, I think everybody wants to work for a company that has a good value system, has a good brand, that they feel good about going to work for every single day. And I think, the buddies help bring that home and make people, the coworkers, understand, wow, I'm lucky to work for this company. They've got a great culture, which is like Jersey Mike's, I think, has a great culture. Not
Mhm.
only do they do it for Best Buddies, they do it for a lot of other organizations, and they've been growing like crazy, and they're super profitable. And their per store revenue is way above Subway, for example. They do 2-3 times the revenue that Subway does, but they give back tens of millions of dollars a year to communities and to organizations they support. So I think people go in, yeah, they're getting a great product, and their sandwiches are better than Subway, but they also have a culture of giving and a spirit of giving. So I think if you can do all those things together, you're crushing it and everybody
Mm.
wins and everybody's making money and, the company's getting value. We're making money. They're making money. The employees are happy. Our buddies are happy because they've got jobs. And, those are the kind of partnerships that we're constantly trying to build. I'm trying to think, what can we do to help Coca-Cola? I mean, they're one of the biggest brands, the most famous brands in the world. Why would they need Best Buddies? Well, in the end of the day, they don't really need us. But do I think that their brand is enhanced in a small way because of their partnership with us? I do. Do I think their employees are more excited about working for Coca-Cola because they know that they partner with organizations like ours? I think they do. Do they work harder? I think they do. And is it kind of consistent with the spirit of Coke, and Coke sells happiness and joy? That's what they're trying to do with our organization, and they're hiring people with intellectual disabilities. So, I think it's you just got to keep reminding, no matter whether it's one of the great brands, whether it's Rolex or Coke or whoever. I think Best Buddies has a role in helping them build their culture of caring, culture of inclusion, a culture of purpose, and I think when we are able to do that, everybody wins.
Man, every time I want to say something like the word inclusivity, you take it from me, man. We're on the same we're on the same
On the
wavelength here,
same page. Yeah, yeah, there you go.
but yeah, I mean, it's part of it is because I understand, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm not coming into it completely oblivious to what that type of partnership can bring to a culture shift of inclusiveness. So it's, there to me, we touched on it, you mentioned it, but you didn't really go into it to the cycling, right? I love it because you have all these different, like you said, revenue sources, but activities to bring inclusion and culture building for both brands, right? And to bring the gratitude and the experience for the buddies. But also you're bringing a physical element to it as well. So you're promoting health at the same time. Can you talk about the cycling?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we try to do is as I kind of refer to them, we have a bunch of different assets, right? And we can sell these assets to whoever the customer is. And, we have, if our customer is a person with intellectual disabilities, we have employment opportunities for them. If they want to live and have a good, inclusive 5-star housing, we can sell that to them. If you're an avid cyclist, we have all these cycling adventures all over the United
Mm,
States, cycling camps. We have walks. We do 78 walks. We did in 2025. So if you want to come out, free. If you don't want to raise any money or you don't want to get a T-shirt, you can show up, walk, participate, play, listen to the music, the whole 9 yards, and be involved in the walk. You want to play pickleball? You can come play pickleball at one of our pickleball events. You want to play tennis? You can come play tennis. You want to have your kid involved and get paired up with a person with intellectual disabilities. They can start a program at their school if we don't have a mentoring program at their school. So again, trying to have a menu of different opportunities for people in ways that they can participate and get engaged, uh, despite what their level of interest is or what they want to do. So if you're a cyclist, you can come and you can hammer and ride 25, 28 miles an hour, have the best time with people that have won the Tour de France, and rub shoulders with some of the greatest cyclists in the world, or some of the greatest football players in the world, or basketball players in the world. Um, and you can get involved and you can raise money at the same time and have a great, healthy experience and eat good food and have camaraderie and learn about our mission. You may have come because you love to cycle and you want to participate in a Best Buddies Challenge and ride 100 miles from Central Park out into the Hudson Valley, or you want to ride 100 miles in Miami or in Northern California or in Boston. And that may have what got you there because you're passionate about cycling, but then we have you there, right? So we get the horse to the well and then we got to sell them. So when we
mm,
get them there, we got to turn them on. They got to meet one of our participants. They got to hear one of our participants give a speech. They got to hear one of them sing the national anthem, play the piano. And then, we have that chance to sell them on our mission. And then, yeah, maybe they came for cycling, or maybe they came because they wanted to meet Tom Brady or Cindy Crawford, but boom, we get them there. Then we've got our job to do. We got to sell them on Best Buddies. We got to sell them on our mission. And then we hope we keep them and turn them into a long-term supporter. So I think, we have these Best Buddies challenges. The cycling component probably raises 15 million bucks, $15 million a year, which is great. But, we have walks, they're raising 7 million a year. We have galas, traditional galas, they're doing 15 million a year. So we have a lot of different, ways that people can participate. So if you want to come to a party and drink and have great wine, you can do it. But if you want to ride 100 miles and crush it next to Chris Froome, who's won the Tour de France 4 times, or Alberto Contador, or Mark Cavendish, or any of these great cyclists, you can do that as well. So again, I think you got to make sure you got something for everybody, and you're keeping it fresh and you're keeping it alive. And pickleball is huge now, so we've started in
mm-hmm.
the pickleball space. We have a pickleball tournament in Aspen, Colorado, and so we're getting the thing going, and trying again to make sure that we got our foot in the door in all these different areas, and that we can be attractive to people. And then if something doesn't work, we shut it down and move
Mm.
on, and reinvent ourselves in another city or another market, and keep going.
See, that's the difference though, right? I mean, I'm listening to everything, and the question was, you know, key strategies or strategic partnerships, and you're literally hitting on every single thing, right? Like you have the corporate sponsorships and the corporate relationships. You're going into sport and partnering with, Tour de France champions. You mentioned Cindy Crawford, Tom Brady, and I believe there's Guy Fieri too,
Yeah,
right? Of
guys.
all your celebrity ambassadors, I mean, that to me is more than just having somebody represent the brand. Those are all individuals that have been reported to be really, really good people, right?
Yeah.
And so that kind of thing right there is like, yes, those celebrity ambassadors not only bring awareness to the cause and to the foundation, and maybe even a little bit of donation or whatever, or revenue, but at the end of the day, it just, it you've really thought of everything, man. And that's and to me, so when I look back at the growth of the expansion, right, internationally, to me, it's a no-brainer. This thing is going to hit the 500 million impact that you're going to hit.
Yeah, yeah, I'm hopeful. Yeah, I'm confident we'll do it for sure. Um, and I think as we select these different things, I think the most important thing to remember, and I always tell our team, is that we've only got one reputation, and we build our reputation through experiences that people have. And
Mm,
people either come into the Best Buddies family and they walk away with something really positive, or they walk away with something negative, and that's our job. Is to give them that experience that's positive. And we don't hit it every single time. There's people probably that walk around and think we do a lousy job or have a terrible experience at an event. We got to figure out why and then correct it so
mm,
we don't make the same mistake in the future. And as I always say, our customer's always right. And we got to make sure that we're super responsive to them. But, we build, in my judgment, we build our brand through experiences. And people come in and they have an experience at Best Buddies, and then they go and they talk and they go
yeah.
and they build our reputation for ourselves. And we have to make sure that the global ambassadors that we pick, they've got to be quality people. And Best Buddies isn't right for everybody. And there's companies that aren't right for us. And there's plenty of companies, if they came and, pitched me and wanted to give me $5 million, I wouldn't take them if they didn't fit our brand. I'm a long-term player, and I know that we just keep chipping away. We'll get the right people. We can't go for a quick fix. We got to build organically and just keep going, keep hammering. We lose somebody, we'll get another person. We keep our mission front and center. But it's really important. Who do we pick? Who do we allow into the Best Buddies family? What's their brand? And does it line up with our brand? And are we doing the same things? And in the end, do we like each other? Does the head of Coca-Cola, is he my vibe or she? It happens to be a woman. Is
Mhm.
she my vibe? And does she feel my energy? And do I feel hers? And do we share the same values? If not, it's not the right fit. Pepsi's not the right fit for us. Coke's the right fit for us for a whole variety of different reasons. Subway's not the right fit for us. Jersey Mike's is the right fit for us for a whole variety of reasons. So I think, you got to make sure, we have to make sure constantly that we're adjusting and picking. And sometimes, a company will have a partnership with a new CEO will come in and their vibe is different. And, we have a
Mhm.
contract and our contract runs out. Sometimes I don't even want to renew with the company because it's just not the right, the CEO is taking the company in a direction that doesn't fit for Best Buddies. It's not the right move. And it's hard to walk away from money, but, sometimes you just got to do it for the long-term benefit of the organization. So, we got to be really careful and, we got to make sure whatever we launch, whatever new industry we go into, whether it's pickleball, tennis, whatever it is, we know what we're doing. We do it right. We start super small. We grow. We perfect it. We make the mistakes on a small level before we try to scale it on a national level or even an international level. I think it's critical to ensure that we continue to be successful.
I love it. The specific part about the partnerships that may or may not be a fit based on, maybe the energy of the CEO or just overall company dynamic, right? Is very timely. I put out a thought every single day on LinkedIn and on my socials in the story area. And today was about not selling your soul to get ahead, right? Basically outlining the fact that, you know, what is it even worth if you compromised who you are along the way? Is it really a win? Right. And, when I built my platform, it was bootstrap, just like you did with Best Buddies. Bootstrap, you're starting small, you perfect something, you scale. Then you find something else, you do it small, perfect it, scale. So, what I've done is I've walked away from a lot of different partnerships because the brand message, the brand feel wasn't in line with what I'm building. So there's certain things I would never take money from. There's certain things in types of industries that I would never even interview
Yeah.
because of the fact that my audience to me is my family. That they are the people that are listening to this show and getting the value out of it. I want to make sure that I'm the gatekeeper for them and that I honor them. So I love that you said that, man.
Yeah, you got to do it. I mean, yesterday, I'm not going to name the company because I don't want to hurt them at all, but it's a nicotine company that's doing really, really well. And the nicotine
Mhm.
dip, those tablets that you take and those
Yep.
things, the guy pitched me and said, booming, fast, you want to do a partnership with Best Buddies. They love to be involved. Do you like it? Do you do it yourself? No. I mean, it's not the right fit for us. You know what I mean? It just
Right.
doesn't work. It's tempting. They've got to, the brand's growing big time. They're all over the country. We could be on the package. We could do, 5 cents per can sold to Best Buddies. They do advertising for us, similar things that we do with some of the other
Mhm.
brands, but it's not the right fit for us, right? It's not the right energy, and, it's not the right dynamic for the organization. But, I don't know what that deal would have looked like, whether it would have been 100,000 a year or 500, 250,000 a year. I have no idea because I didn't negotiate it at all, but it just doesn't fit. So you walk away. But you got to do it. You got to walk away, and not everybody that rings your doorbell is the right person to let in your house. And
That's good.
you've only got your one place. So they get in your family, they're in, and they can be a cancer. So you just got to watch it. You know that, and it's the same principles about some of our biggest donors are these great, huge finance guys, and they say it all the time in the investment world. So many of the things that they articulate in the investment world are so similar to our world and the principles. I mean, so many of these principles are consistent with every business, right? Every company.
Yep.
It's the same things everybody's got to pay attention to. And so many people don't pay attention, and, they got caught up, and so much of it, I think, comes back to ego. And which is why I think, again, the humility part, faith, having a calling, higher being, for me, my faith, Catholicism is huge. It reminds you constantly that you're nothing and we're nothing. We're here for 60 years, 80 years if we're lucky, and it can end in any moment. I could be out on my
Yeah.
bike any day and then boom, it's over. So, I think knowing that, we really are nothing, 7 billion people, I'm one guy, you know, I'm not even a speck. And my time on the earth is so tiny relative to the history of time. It's you got to want to do the right thing, in my judgment, and it creates the best life.
Well, that's what I want the audience to hang on to right now. So for those of you listening and watching, that is what I really want you to hold on to, right? Because what you said there is it's not about us. We are nothing. We are here, right? And our job while we're here is to make an impact as much as we possibly can and to serve, right? And we have the same beliefs, okay? So it's like when we think of the ego and think of in terms of like, well, let me puff my chest out. Man, it's such a bad way. Well, maybe not a bad way, but for me, it's bad. It doesn't work for me, right? Because I want to be focused every day on what can I give someone, and how can I give it, right? Because
Yeah,
for me, this is my way of giving. That this is my way, and of course, in my circle of people and my friends, I reach out, I pour into them when I'm off camera, and I'm the same guy, on camera that you would be if you randomly showed up at my door. Same
yeah,
dude, right?
yeah.
Because that's the energy I'm in, right? And but to serve the world, as I really truly feel that's what we're put here to do, and you're doing that daily.
Oh, no, I appreciate it. And listen, I don't want to misrepresent. I mean, I think everybody's got their own journey, right? Everybody can serve
Sure.
in their own way. And if there weren't people on Wall Street making billions of dollars a year, they wouldn't be giving that money back because they've got all that money, or
Mhm.
they wouldn't be letting me borrow their house for a Best Buddies event. So if everybody was doing my job, I wouldn't have a job and I wouldn't have a business. So I need people, selling Coca-Cola. I need people buying subs from Jersey Mike's. So
Yep.
I need people at Citadel Securities making tons of money. So I think
Mhm.
that, it's everybody got to follow their passion and play the role and, follow whatever God designed you to do. Not everybody is designed to do what I do. There's people in my office, even the job I do, they go, I'd go crazy if I had to do your job. And I look at my, head of accounting or accounts payable. I go crazy if I had to do your job. I'd hate it. I'd be terrible. So I think, again, trying to find, your niche and your calling, and most of us know it in our gut, but sometimes we're too scared to admit it or too scared to go for it. Then we get ourselves
Yeah.
stuck in the wrong job, the wrong profession. We do a lousy job. We get unhappy. We get depressed. We don't make money, and everything starts unraveling because we don't have the courage to say, "Hey, I want to be an actor. Hey, I want to go into the, finance and make tons of money. Hey, I want to run a charity. Whatever it is." Nothing bad there. You just got to go with what you're supposed to do. And then, I think the whole system works really well when that happens. And the system gets off when people are in the wrong jobs and doing the wrong things. And starts to unravel. So anyways, it's
Yeah.
good stuff. It takes all of us doing our thing.
It sure does. And to your point, right? Not everybody needs to be in exactly the way you serve. The
Correct.
CEO of Coca-Cola is still in service. They are serving the best way that they know how, right? And they're providing a product that people enjoy.
Yep.
And so I just think it's also important for the audience to really key in on that, right? We're not suggesting that you go do exactly what Anthony's doing, what I'm doing, but find what that service is for you, because that's the vertical you can own,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. You say it exactly right. Yeah. No, obviously. So good for you. And that you have the guts to do what you're doing.
Oh yeah. I mean, heck, man, I walked away from a successful medical sales career to do this. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. That's
scary.
risky and scary. Yeah. Right.
It's scary, right? And I could remember the look on my wife's face. She went, "You're gonna do what?" And I'm like, "I think this is it. This is the purpose that I feel I have, right? And this is how
Yeah.
I can thrive and give value and obviously too make money for the family. And it's
Yeah.
working out. But man, it wasn't pretty for a while, Anthony.
Yeah.
Like, whew, man, it was scary. But a couple things as we wind down the show and give you your time back, and as I surely appreciate every moment you've given us and the audience. Um, the show is called The Determined Society. We're based on determination and discipline, focus, grit, resilience, everything you can think of, right? Doing the things that we don't want to do at the time because it's going to exercise that part of our brain that's going to help us progress the most. But in your definition, what does determination mean to you?
I mean, I think determination comes from within. I mean, I think it's an inner sort of push and calling that we all have. And I think some people have
Mm,
enormous amounts of it and some people really don't have a lot of it. I think there's, a lot of people, and I think human nature in many ways is, lazy. I mean, I hate to say it because I think it's kind of negative, but I mean, I think people really want to always find the easiest way to do everything.
mm,
And they want to take the easiest road to get to wherever they think they want to go. And as I say, like to my son, I think having determination to fall in love with the process. When I set goals, I set the goal, but when I actually achieve the goal, it's such a letdown. Because I immediately feel like, I really like the process of getting to the goal. That's the fun. It's like, if I'm setting a goal on the bike, I like the process of waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I like the process of walking the dog. I like the process of making my shake and filling my water bottles and setting up my bike and putting the lights on it and setting my Garmin and making sure everything's charged and the night before and getting out there and winning the day and coming back at 7 a.m. and feeling like I already won and I'm ahead of everybody else. And that process is amazing. But every time I go on the bike, I have goals. What do I want to do? What's my power? How long's my hold? What's my interval? Those things. And I have a yearly goal. I have a monthly goal. I have a daily goal, weekly goals. And when I get the bigger goals, it feels kind of good. But as soon as you get it, you gotta I want to set another goal and I want to go through it because I love the journey to get to where I want to go. And to me,
mm.
that requires determination. You're determined to get to the goal that you set out for yourself. And I don't know, not that I'm better than anybody else at all. I'm not. That's my path. That's my journey. I just don't know whether everybody wants to do that and loves the process. I think that a lot of people really love winning the lottery. You just get all the money, but you don't do the work to get the money. It feels so much better to me, anyways, to do the work and get the prize at the end. And the prize isn't even the prize to me. It's the journey to get to the prize. It's really the prize for me, which I love. So, I mean, to me, that's determination and having determination to do all that. And I just don't know whether, everybody loves that. And it doesn't mean that they're bad. I just don't think everybody really wants to, grind like that and be determined.
I love that because, like, as you're speaking, you're firing me up because every goal, man, listen, every goal that my team and I have hit with this show, I get there, I'm like, oh,
It's a letdown
cool.
almost.
It's the first time we hit 1 million, listens in a year. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. We got there. I'm like, I miss the feeling of chasing it.
I
I
know.
miss the feeling of the process. I miss the feeling of get this one. I miss the pain.
Yeah.
Right. And so then I take the dial and I crank it up 180. I'm like, what makes me uncomfortable? What puts me in the most amount of pain daily in that journey? Because like you said, that is the gift, the journey, that the who you become in the pursuit of that success. Just like that old movie, Pursuit of Happiness.
Yeah.
Like
No,
it was
right,
awesome.
right.
The end of the movie was a letdown for me. It was a success, but what I really loved was who he was becoming.
Yeah.
Man, powerful.
Yeah, you're right. You're
Thank you
right.
for
But
that.
it's funny as I say to my kid, I've been getting him in the gym and he's always complaining he's sore, his legs hurt, his chest hurts. He's whining about it. I said, you're in the right game if it hurts. If you go to the gym and you're never sore, you're not hitting it hard enough. You got to put more weight on. You got to do more reps. You got to burn it. You got to get the blood in the chest more. So the next morning you wake up and your chest is tight or your arms hurt, or you got to do lunges with more weight on the lunges because your hamstrings aren't tight. You're not working hard enough. So you're doing it if it hurts. And that's when the gain comes, So anyways, we're on the same page, dude. We think the same, we're on it. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. It's that progressive overload in anything you do in life, whether it's weights or business or spiritually, you put that progressive overload to help you grow as an individual. So I love it, man. And in closing, I want you to let the audience know how they could best to do two things, right? Best support Best Buddies and become involved with Best Buddies.
Well, bestbuddies.org, go on there. We got all the info on there. You can make a donation. You can get involved. You can get a buddy yourself through our programs. You could hire someone with Best Buddies in your company or encourage the company you work for to hire a person with intellectual developmental disabilities. We operate our jobs program all over the U.S. We're not in every single city in the entire United States, but maybe we are where you are, and we can get that going. You can join one of our walks. We do 78 walks. You can join one of our challenges. We're launching our first one in New York City, October 4th. Go on there and, sign up and join us, and if you've never ridden 100 miles, you can train with one of our trainers and get fit to ride 100 miles. If you're not up for it, ride 15. We have a 15-mile, 40-mile. So again, there's so many ways to get involved. The website's the best place to start, and shoot us emails. We'll follow up. And if we don't follow up, we got a problem. You need to send me an email and we'll fix it so that we don't ever drop the ball. But, more the merrier. And, it takes thousands of people to make this stuff work. Hundreds of thousands to make it start to work globally. So I welcome everybody in the Best Buddies family.
I love it. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys have in Florida. I'd love to come to one of the galas, support any way I can. Absolutely. I will be there. I'll go and take a look and see what you guys got coming on.
One of our biggest one is November 15th down in Miami. If you want to come down, and actually the guy that founded Jersey Mike's co-chairs it with me, Peter Cancro. And he started Jersey Mike's as a high school kid, bought a little sub shop and sold it for $8 billion in January of this year. So, it happens. Guy didn't go to college, got a loan in high school. I mean, these stories are out there. These people are out there, it can be you, right?
Yeah.
I can say to my kid, you can be a billionaire if that's really what you want, or you can start your own charity or your own business. I mean, everything's possible. Just because someone else is doing it doesn't mean you can't do it.
Well, I will put November 15th on my calendar. You can mark that. You can mark that down. I will be there. But well, thanks again, man. I really do appreciate
I appreciate it, man. Have a great day. I appreciate your time.
100%. Audience, you heard it. Bestbuddies.org. Anthony Kennedy Shriver.